We are not talking about free as in free beer here. We are talking about free as in free speech. How do we build a pharmacy industry in a bankrupt country? Satyagraha campaign was an anti-Shri campaign. The government actually sent buses to aggravate people with the Sinhala Tamil letter Shri. Official president's website, and you can see they're using non-standard fonts, and information is not accessible. This is like my favorite thing to do. Try to convince a room full of people that, letters are the most important thing, important than everything else that you're also doing. So let's see how this goes. I started with the last slide. I don't know whether I gave out the whole. Okay, cool. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about today, and also I'm going to do some clarifications, so we know, we are all on the same page and in the same font size. Yes, yes, good. Okay, so start off with what typography is. Oh, and this whole thing is going to run for like 3 hours, and if you stay for the until the last bit, you'll get a free sticker of the nice, things that we have done as well, and we have a big reveal at the end. Yeah. Okay, so let's start off with clarifications. So there are a lot of technical definitions, poetic descriptors, academic notions, pedagogies about what typography is, especially, a lot of things coming from the West, from, white people. But I like this notion particularly. It resonated with me. But the problem is, in the sort of Western pedagogical thinking, we have all these terms for different things: typography, calligraphy, lettering, letter forms, language, linguistics. And when you're trying to practice these things, especially in this region where we are working, these, walls about what that and this, it doesn't necessarily make sense in most cases, and we end up with these sort of images where we point at things and dissect, and that is the usual Western way of thinking, while humans are, creatures trying to put things in boxes and understand, but dissecting and going in and in sometimes doesn't help. And this has been, I've noticed this in my practice, trying to articulate value, trying to teach type. All of these things are type for us, and this idea of typography is the visual component of the written word really resonate with me. We'll clarify that. But I'm using a new word, acrography, because that's what we do. And let's try to get that on the dictionary if we can. So this is the basic diagram to explain. So we have language on one side, then we have letter forms on the other side, then we have the written word in the middle. I'm just trying to get everyone on the same page. So let's just clearly, we have these words. Yeah. So we have these written words, and it's typeset in a standard typeface without much personality. If I start doing typography to this, what can I do? Okay, now something is happening. I've added a visual component to the whole mix. Now something also happening. And this is what I call poor man's typography. You just have these little things to do things and try to get your meaning across. And this is what happens if you're just, poor and just have the italics, then you end up with elegant and stylish in the same style. So we're talking about the visual component here. Yeah, I think we are getting somewhere. So we have language and letter forms together. Now it's what gives us the meaning. So the next point is typography gives structure to text and document. So this is just a plain text, as we call it. For you whom you can read, let's try to do some typography to this. First one is I'll remove double spaces. So that's a huge thing. All of you whom don't really care about what you're writing, don't use double spaces. So now you're learning something as well. So just with spaces, now I'm doing typography to this. Okay, more clarity, more structure. So I had a list of names. Moment I put them in a bullet list, I have hierarchy. Also, I'm creating new problems as well. Who's on the top of the list? Yeah? But now the good thing is, instead of just having one person at the very beginning of the list, now I have few levels of hierarchy where I can mix and match, maybe, put a, yeah, it's a decision. And here, now I'm comparing these two so you can make sense. So this is particularly important because now we are looking at the economical part or the business sense of typography as well, because I had to accommodate these two columns, I had to take out the two columns of names. So here we are coming to the area of not just text, but a document. What is the area that I have and how much information can I put in that area? So, language, typography, then we create meaning. Clarified? Yes? Lovely. So, next, fonts. What are fonts? You have probably seen these sort of things, and it just, clearly it's easy to use like extreme examples and make the point, but a little bit subtle, not so much, but you obviously know which one you're going to trust here, yeah? And then you can stack these things. The moment you see something like this, okay, it's a good movie. And then now it's a great movie. Yeah? Now it's the greatest movie ever. Awesome. I don't know, a rich woman's typography having more typefaces, is it? I don't know. So here, if we have typefaces, if we have fonts, you can start articulating, differentiating, getting this meaning across more pronounced, and yeah, you're specific about the voice. And fonts can enhance meaning, this specific meaning across communities as well, across languages. These little shapes, convert them into across languages. So we're going to talk about this in detail when we are talking with our friends from India about how do we do this. Also, just having a lot of fonts is not enough, because you need to have a sense of how to use these fonts, or you end up with what's on the other side. Yeah, you can completely mess up the meaning. Of course, it gives meaning. Also, it can take away from the meaning, the linguistic meaning as well. Not so friendly, or definitely not elegant. Yeah, maybe stronger in a different way. So, fonts give an identity to a text. Companies like Uber or big multinationals, they have their own typefaces. Sometimes a few Sri Lankan companies also have, and with their expansions, we are seeing, they're also investing in enhancing their identity and, making typefaces, fonts for their languages also in the region, not only South Asian region, but CJK, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean speaking world, Arabic world. So we'll see that, and we'll see some cool examples from our panelists who have worked on like large projects. Also, you're seeing interfaces, not just marketing, but interfaces being localized. So this is the Google's account homepage, and we can see not just the language, but their brand typeface has been, they've designed it to match their brand presence. Also, fonts are softwares. Let's get into that. This is my proof. There are jobs for font engineers and developers. But we all know just having a job title and a name doesn't necessarily mean there's work to be done. So fonts are a tool for mechanical writing. What do I mean by that? So fonts are made in these sort of softwares which we call font editors. And for this mechanical writing, each unit of mechanical writing, we have a little box like this. And a type designer sits in front of a computer and stares at that little point and wonder what to do with this point next. That's how our lives are usually spent. But to make that decision, there's a lot that we have to put in. So we have all these boxes in the font, but we have just a keyboard like this. So when I wear my type font engineer hat, I sit and write small little code like this. I just put in so I may look smart and you feel like I'm a proper software engineer. It's not that complicated. It's simple once you read the documentation. So why do we need these things? Because we have these boxes, and then we need to be able to typeset things like this. So with a little bit of this sort of coding, we can enable in the same font, same typeface, typing these kind of combinations. So when Sinhala is used to typeset or mechanically write Sanskrit language, we have combinations where we are touching like 3 mas or 3 cars or situations like that. And then you can also enable things like this, where you have alternate forms of the same letter. And if you look at the bottom row, you can see the alternate form of fa before the letter fa was introduced and standardized. The way that letter sound fa was written in Sinhala documents, even in the government press, was with a pa followed by a letter F from the Latin script. Also, you can do things like this if our fonts can support. So this is on an encoding level, on a data level, on a linguistic level, this is the same meaning. It's Maradana, name, semantically. Yeah? But there is a distinct differentiation between these two, and I can prove that if I show you the old Maradana board, which was hand-painted on the station, and the bottom one, which has no personality whatsoever. Fonts are software, sold, licensed, distributed, and pirated, just like any other software. Yeah? So we know we all install fonts. It's not a simply copying the font, even though the action is copying. You're installing a font to your system, and you pirate these things as well. I mean, if we had like 2,000 Sinhala fonts, I think we wouldn't be having this conference here. So fonts are software that actually integrate with lowest level operating system functions. So this is a screenshot from 2017 before macOS started properly shipping Sinhala support. Facebook looked like this for some communities. I'm not going to get into like explaining Unicode and legacy and all that, but you who know, you might know, otherwise we'll get into this. But the main important point is that there are two specific standards, and if you use older FM style fonts, your text is not readable and interchangeable, and machines can't understand that. This is a screenshot from 2016. It's the official president's website, and you can see they're using non-standard fonts, and information is not accessible. This is just, I took like, this is from a document. I downloaded the Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment. I retrieved this document on the 5th of November, and it's typeset with one of these non-standard typefaces. So because of this, these documents are not accessible to the citizens. It's a problem of accessibility, and I'm very happy to say that a group of remarkable activists have actually filed a fundamental rights petition against the government printer and the Attorney General Department, and it's being raised, and the petitioners are asking for the government to start printing these documents with Unicode compatible fonts. You have no idea how happy I felt about seeing this level of commitment. So if you're interested, this was done by Isru Pandita in support with Enable Lanka Foundation. Janitha Rokmal and few others from the organization are here in the audience as well. Talk to them, support them, see how it's going. So fonts are crucial to store, retrieve, and display data and information in digital system. And because of this, fonts are infrastructure. They encode information, enable communication, do all these things. I'm not going to go into very much detail into these things. Interestingly, identities, when we talk about identities, the current president, Sri Lankan president, came to power using a, that's a heavy statement, but his campaign used a custom typeface designed by Chaminda Kumara. I'm very happy to see this also happening. Okay, so clarified. Fonts are visual stuff, yes. Fonts are software, and therefore fonts are infrastructure that we should be paying attention to. So next part of my presentation is few stories. The first story is about my favorite colonizer. So this is a palm leaf manuscript, and then you can see what's marked is the Sinhala punctuation mark Kundaliya. And this is not a full stop, this is a punctuation mark, and these are different notations of the Kundaliya that could be used to denote different meanings. So I intentionally kept out what it means, because this thesis, this is from Dr. Sumantri Samaravikrama's PhD thesis. You can access that, read up, and understand more. So when the Dutch came to Sri Lanka, they set up the first printing enterprise, and they actually started using this Kundaliya in their printing enterprise. And you can see, they're going crazy sometimes, but they actually respected the usage of that, how it was used. But then the British came, and they did a lot of things. Apart from one thing that they did was, let go of this style. They dropped the Kundaliya. In the early prints of the government press, they were using the marked Sinhala numerals, but after a while they dropped them also. By 1950s, this Sinhala punctuation mark was even seen by the Sri Lankan scholars as a mark that's reserved for Pali and traditional texts. It was completely dropped out. Sinhala numerals died off. And it was only encoded back into the standards in early 90s. And since then, we have seen a comeback, and we are seeing this being added. So that's story one, the learning. So story two, letters of conflict. So Official Languages Act of 1956, more like Official Languages Acting Out 1956, because this is the point where a lot of the modern roots of the ethnic conflict in Sri Lanka lies, and this is a story about the letter Shri. So in 1956, after the enactment of the Official Languages Act, which made Sinhala, the only official language of Sri Lanka, they dropped the old vehicle numbering system, which had English letters, and started introducing the Tamil Shri letter, and it was made mandatory to add this letter. So the standard work, one number Shri followed by another number. So by 58, it was seen that Tamils didn't like this. They were using the Tamil letter Shri in Tamil concentrated areas, and it is a key word because this was a point in where the conflict of language became associated with as a conflict of region or land, because they felt offended. They felt government was doing all these things. And the worst thing is, when this happened, Federal Party announced the 1958 Satyagraha campaign, and it was actually according to the literature that I've been able to refer, Satyagraha campaign was an anti-Shri campaign, but the government actually sent buses to aggravate people there with the Sinhala Tamil letter Shri. And the Federal Party, they started removing these letters, and in the Sinhala majority provinces, Tamil letters were tar brushed or blacked out on street signs. For this story, I'm depending on secondary sources, but I think there should be a more archival research about what actually happened, referring to news papers. But this is on some good authority. So this all led to the war that we saw, and this sort of conflict continues. There was a whole thing when the previous president was thing. They introduced, they launched a new media center, and the earlier the Tamil was on the very below of the three order of three, and then they had to change into bringing Tamil into the middle, and there has been incidents of removing Tamil name boards in certain areas. There was this whole thing which was a social media sensation when in 2019 October Palali airport opened and Sinhala was on the second row, and this is how media reported it. They just like reported it as Sinhala language on the second place. And it didn't matter because anyway, in Jaffna, usually all the boards, the Tamil is on the top of the signage boards. And in 2019 May, after the Easter attacks, government sent a special circular asking languages other than Sinhala and Tamil English should be removed from all the signage and boards in the country. This happened specifically because of the Easter attack and the blowback that came after that. But, when you have a masjid, do you have to remove that as well? I don't know. Then we have things like this where China, you don't even have Tamil or Sinhala. Like even if you go to the port city now, it's just like even the toilet signs are just in English and Chinese in some places. Fonts free for all. Freedom to use fonts are defined as this: freedom to use and run, freedom to study and edit, freedom to contribute, freedom to share, redistribute, and redistribute modification. We are not talking about free as in free beer here. We are talking about free as in free speech. Yeah? Yes? So you could be still paying, but you're getting these freedoms for the font file. Remember, we are licensing things. So Google Fonts project is one of the largest projects in investing in open source fonts because it makes sense for their business structure that they have. And in 2015 with Pushpananda Ekanayaka, we managed to license one of his fonts, the Abhaya, FM Abhaya, the classic Sinhala typeface. It's the Times New Roman of Sinhala. Universities ask you to submit in this typeface. 12 point, this is the standard. So with the support from Google Fonts project, we open sourced this typeface. We made, it was just two weights, they were not coordinated, so we made a Latin companion for that. We made multiple weights of this typeface, and it was actually, first file was committed to the digital space about a decade ago. So yeah, it's good time. And the whole process is documented. When we started this project, there was no available knowledge about how to make Sinhala fonts properly work for these platforms, what are the test cases, what should we be even looking at, and we have documented the whole process as well. And with the support of Google Fonts, we also designed another typeface, Stick Nobles. This is the gallery, most of you might know. They had already drawn up few letter forms. They wanted to make it into a font. We made it into a Latin working font, and we spoke to Google and said, hey guys, like we have this typeface, we'd like to make a Tamil and Sinhala version for this, and the gallery is also happy to make it open source. Would you guys be willing to help us to expand this? And we managed to do that, and this was designed by Kosala Senaviratna, whom you will hear speak. Yeah. Story 4, you have no standards. So this is the standard, that's the encoding standard of Sri Lanka, SLS 1143. The last revision was in 2011, but this is a government-led, government-run standard. And as you can imagine, what depending on what our country goes through, these things doesn't really work. So the international standard for these our languages is Unicode standard, and Unicode is it's two things. Unicode, one is it's a consortium, so it's an organization, and there are liaising organizations, all these. Apart from that, it's a technical standard. So the consortium is a standard body. So it was, the Unicode standard, it was, once you get something working, barely working, if it's good enough, sometimes things don't move along, especially in the standards world. Yeah, if you have a good enough working thing, you don't have to worry about it. But the thing is, when you're trying to improve things and build something on that, you need to be specific. And these sort of documentations, especially the Unicode standard, and this documentation is what is used by software platforms which implement support for our languages. For you who have struggled with Sinhala support in your software, it's not just Suddha's white man's Varadda. We also have to, contribute, update, and keep these standards up to date. So we have worked with editors, rather than going through the government channels or official channels, directly working with the standard and contributing however we can for documentation is something that we have been doing. In Abe Libre Typeface as an open project, we have closed over 75 issues now. So this is an open source project. Anyone can come and report an issue, discuss something, contribute to that. They can do all that. So this is something Janaka, you can talk. Janaka is a researcher who's been working with us for a long time. So he comes up and says, okay, dude, like this letter is there and we need to type this. I've seen this in books. I've seen this in here and there. We have to type this, and this is from a Pali book. And he also share a sketch. He's not a designer, but he's share like a sketch, a proposal that can be implemented. And then Kausala jumps in and like says something. Then we have Bertram G. Lianage, who's a Stella Sinhala language scholar who's doing his PhD right now in the US, who's jumping in and sharing some actual like first hand resources about this. Then, we make some sketches. We have enough conclusive evidence that's coming from reputed people, and we as a community decide what is right. By the power vested in me through the letter forms, I close the issue and implement this letter. So we have been doing research on things like this missing stuff over the years, and as you can see, Abe Libre is supporting everything. Whatever is not supported, we are not sure whether we should implement them, whether it's because we also shouldn't implement everything that comes our way, because then it brings up our file sizes, just clog the system. So new letter alert. So we have added all these things to Abe Libre over the years. And we were contributing to another discussion that's going on, whether we need a letter Z in Sinhala alphabet. And there has been multiple proposals by different scholars with, belong to different schools, have their own thing going on between them, academics. So we try to be objective here. So in this Z discussion, there are political notions as well, because Z is used by mostly Muslim names require the letters to be used. So there were some notions about that as well. So we as a collective and we as a company, as Moniac, we try to be objective, and we have developed a criteria of our own how to evaluate any request or proposal that comes in our way. So we get to the answers. I promise that I will answer the question that we started with, how to build a fonts industry in a bankrupt country. So yeah, we are not still out of the bankruptcy as a country. Yeah. So typography is stories of technology, culture, and society. Letter forms are functional objects, but they're culture and of identity. That's how I feel. And making fonts require these things: drawing skills, understanding script culture. When I say script culture, like everything that contains this culture. For example, Tamil uh, typography uses both upright style and the slanted style as their primary style. So if you pick up a Tamil paper, you will see both upright and a slanted style on the body text as well. So this is script culture. How do people use these things? Yes. And making fonts require time, appreciation, and resources. So how do we build a fonts industry in a bankrupt country, and what does it have to do with everything, the culture that we are talking about? The answer is together, and with care. I'm saying this because a lot of this work that we have done, as you will see through the progression of today's presentations, we have 6 talks lined up after this, lightning talks. Some of the brightest people in Sri Lanka, 3 of them collaborators, will talk about what their journey has been through, and they chose to stay here. They chose to develop knowledge here. They chose to build these things here. And when I say with care, I feel like I'm taking, like, we are maintaining these font projects for everyone to use. It feels like taking care of something. And in our work that we do, we have had a lot of strong women supporting all of us, being around and making sure that, whenever shit goes wrong, we be kind to each other, because this is a small community. Even Colombo is very small. So yeah, so this is a photo from the last big international type conference that we did in 2018, and we did another one in 2019 as well. But after that, the East attack happened, then COVID happened, and when I think about this country, it's not bankrupt. Like, they can do and say whatever they want, but again, by the power vested in me by the letter forms and all the work that we have done, we hereby declare we are not bankrupt. We can do this thing together, and we have some new faces, new people who would like to take this work forward and build something uh, together and caring. And I won, and thank you.